Cimarrons with the priest. I don't know who that is. And them that worship the host of heaven upon the housetops, and them also that worship and that swear by the Lord and that swear by Malcolm. I think Malcolm may have been a early god that they did sacrifices to. God said, look, I'm going to cut all that off the land. There won't be any more of it. And them that worship the host of heaven upon the housetops, and them that worship and swear by the Lord and that swear by Malcolm. It's interesting. All false worship will be done away with. It's been going on for a long time, but God's going to stop it. In the millennial, there won't be any false worship. And them that are turned back from the Lord, and those that have not sought the Lord, and are inquired of him. In other words, he's going to cut those off that have nothing to do with God. He's going to cut them off. Hold thy peace at the presence of the Lord God, for the day of the Lord is at hand. For the Lord hath prepared a sacrifice, he hath bid his guest. What is that sacrifice? What?
Jesus. No, is that what his name? No.
Would it be the lost? Like at Armageddon, the lost? That's the only thing that makes sense.
That is a sacrifice.
Yeah.
He talks about a sacrifice. Now watch what he says, because you're going to see some verses here that are real neat. The Lord hath prepared a sacrifice and bid his guest. You remember when the parable of they go to the wedding feast, and they have a guy there that does not have on a proper garment? Remember that? Who is that? Satan. So there'll be those that don't have a proper garment at this sacrifice. And it shall come to pass in the day of the Lord's sacrifice that I will punish the princes and the king's children and all such as are clothed with strange apparel. So at the sacrifice, all those that aren't saved die. That's basically what it's saying. I look at the next verse. In the same day also will I punish all those that leap on the threshold, which fill their masters' houses with violence and deceit. Now, I don't know exactly what that means, leaping on the threshold, other than the fact that they go into a place they shouldn't be. And it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord, that there shall be a noise of the cry from the fish gate, and an howling from the second, and a great crashing from the hills. So it just talks about Armageddon and what's going to happen on that day. How ye inhabitants of Melchizedek, for all the merchant people are cut down, all they that bear silver are cut off. And it shall come to pass at that time that I will search Jerusalem with candles, and punish the men that are settled on their lees, and that say in their heart, the Lord will not do good, neither will he do evil. You know, we're living in a time when, I don't know, people think less about God probably than they ever have. I think the thing I see with it is, you've seen Darwin's theory of evolution come to almost the front in everything. Everything I read, man's been here millions of years, you know what I mean? And he has it. So it gets to a point where people don't even think there's God. They just think it, yeah, maybe. They don't pay any attention to it. And what he's saying here, he says, I will search Jerusalem with candles. What does that mean? What do you think that means? Who's going to be there when this happens? Who's gonna be in Jerusalem?
I'm gonna guess the Antichrist.
Yeah. He sets up his tent there, right, on the mountain, and that is the abomination when he sets himself up and says, hey, I'm God. So, I think searching with a candle, if we were searching our house, we'd probably do it with a flashlight if the lights weren't working, wouldn't we? But I think it's a way of, hey, I'm gonna check this, everybody that's there, I'm gonna know it. Nobody's gonna be able to hide and escape from this, and that's what you have to understand about it. 13, therefore their goods shall come as booty, and their houses as desolation. They shall also build houses, but not inhabit them, and they shall plant vineyards, but not drink the wine thereof. The great day of the Lord is near. It is near the hasting, and hasteth greatly. Even the voice of the day of the Lord, the mighty man shall cry there bitterly. That day is a day of wrath, a day of trouble and distress. And it's talking about the whole tribulation period, with some of it exactly aimed at Armageddon itself. So this is, you're talking the 7-year tribulation here. The day is a day of wrath, a day of trouble and distress. So as we've gone through the seals and trumps, and you look at what happens there, you can see it's definitely a time of trouble. A day of wasteness and desolation, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness. So here we are, I would say 3,000 years ago, God says, hey, here's what I'm going to do. And it gets to a point where we think he never has done it, so it's not ever going to happen. But it will happen. A day of the trumpet, an alarm against the fenced cities and against high towers. And I will bring distress on them, that they shall walk like blind men, because they have sinned against the Lord. And their blood shall be poured out as dust, and their flesh as the dung. Neither their silver nor their gold shall be able to deliver them in the day of the Lord's wrath. You can't buy your way out of it. But the whole land shall be devoured by the fire of his jealousy, for he shall make even a speedy riddance of all them that dwell in the land. So, if we didn't know about Armageddon and some of the things that have happened there, we might not realize what this verse is. But there's a real good verse here. We'll get to it in just a second. But I think it's interesting that the silver and gold will deliver them in that in the day of the Lord's wrath. But the whole land shall be devoured by the fire of his jealousy, for he shall make even a speedy riddance of all men. I don't think in my 25 verses that I've got, I don't think I've got these verses in there. But there's a lot of verses. It doesn't say partly, it says all them that dwell in the land. Gather yourselves together, yea, gather yourselves, a nation not desired. Before the decree bring forth, before the day pass as chaff, before the fierce anger of the Lord come upon you, before the day of the Lord's anger come upon you. He's talking to Israel here. Gather yourselves together. Gather together, O nation, not desired. Seek ye the Lord, all ye meek of the earth, which have wrought his judgment. Seek righteousness, seek meekness. It may be ye shall be hid in the day of the Lord's anger. For Gaza shall be forsaken, and Ashkelon a desolation. They shall drive out Ashdod at the noonday, and Ekron shall be rooted up. Okay, we know a lot about Gaza today, and this is what will happen to it in the end. In that time, it was where the Philistines lived in this area. And today, is still a big place in the news every day, that God is gonna take care of it. Where'd I get there? Where was stop? 5. Woe unto the inhabitants of the sea coast. That's them. That's God, the nation of the Cherethites. The word of the Lord is against you, O Canaan, the land of the Philistines. I will even destroy thee, and there shall be no inhabitant. The sea coast shall be dwellings and cottages for shepherds and folds for flocks. Okay, that's what's going to happen with it. And the coast shall be for the remnant of the house of Judah. They shall feed thereupon. In the house of Ashkelon shall they lie down in the evening, for the Lord their God shall visit them and turn away their captivity. Okay, even today when we look at that area, it's not a place for rest. I mean, it looks like rubble when you look at the pictures of it. They completely destroyed it. But when the millennial comes, this is what it'll be. They can rest there. There won't be the war and all the things that's happened to it. I have heard the reproach of Moab and the revilings of the children of Ammon, whereby they have approached my people and magnified themselves against the borders. Therefore, as I live, saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, surely Moab shall be as Sodom, and the children of Ammon as Gomorrah. I think we were looking not too, one of our studies where we showed that some nations will not survive Armageddon. The whole nation will be wiped out, and this is 2 of them. Moab and Ammon will no longer exist. Even the bleeding of nettles and salt pits and perpetual desolation, the residue of my people shall spoil them, and the remnant of my people shall possess them. There's some other verses that talk about these 2 countries. Basically, they're in that area south of the Dead Sea, between there and the Red Sea. And after Armageddon, that will be a volcanic hotspot, is what I call it. There won't anybody go in there. I guess you'd say that Yellowstone is a volcanic hotspot, okay, with all the steam and everything coming up. Only this place, it says nobody will be going in there. You won't visit it like you do Yellowstone. It'll be a bad place. So their land will be completely wiped out. This shall they have for their pride, because they have reproached and magnified themselves against the people of the Lord of hosts. And the Lord will be terrible unto them, for he will famish all the gods of the earth. I found that a very interesting verse there. That all these false gods that you have today, and that have been since the beginning, since Nimrod, I guess, there won't be any left. When you look at Babylon, that's where it all started. Babylon won't be there anymore. I find it interesting when I look at it that Babylon is only 90 feet above sea level. And I think, I have a hunch, I guess you'd say, I can't say it's Bible, but the verses I read, it'll probably, I think the Persian Gulf will come up here and cover it. You won't find it anymore. The verses that indicate that all these false gods will be done away with. When they go into the millennial, everybody will know there is a God. And that's what happens at Armageddon. Everybody understands it. this they shall have for their pride, because they have reproached and magnified themselves against the people of the Lord of hosts. What did the Amorites do? Or, I say Amorites, I guess I'm talking about Esau, Eden. What did Eden do? Anybody know? I think we'll read it here in a minute. Let me keep going and see. The Lord will be terrible unto them, for he will famish all the gods of the earth, and men shall worship him, every one from his place, even all the isles of the heathen. So everybody's going to worship God. There's not going to be any worship of false gods in the millennium. Ye Ethiopians also, you shall be slain by my sword. I did not realize that till I was reading this in another verse, that the Ethiopians are done away with also. And he will stretch out his hand against the north and destroy Assyria, and will make Nineveh a desolation and dry like a wilderness. So that area where false gods really started in Assyria, that area, yeah, they won't be there anymore. It'll be a desolation. And flocks shall lie down in the midst of her, all the beasts of the nations, both the cormorant and the bittern shall lodge in the upper lintels of it. Their voice shall sing in the windows. Desolation shall be in the thresholds, for he shall uncover the cedar work. I'm not sure what all that means, other than it'll be a time of peace. Somebody asked me the other day, I think it was Johnny Brewster when he was here. We were talking a little bit about it. We were talking about what you're gonna eat. We know we're gonna sit down and eat with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And his question was, who's gonna prepare the food? Who's gonna kill animals, do all that kind of stuff when we get to heaven? Who do you think? What do you think about that?
I know the answer because you told me already.
You can't
Give us a
answer.
hint.
What do you think?
I say we go with his answer.
We agree with him.
What's your answer?
We won't be eating meat. We'll be eating fruit.
I think that's it. I think we'll be eating plants. Do what?
Said I'm in trouble.
You don't wanna go?
No, I
You'll go, but you-
That's-
You'll go, but you want some steak, huh?
yeah.
No, I don't know.
I'm
I hadn't
good.
thought about it until he asked me that question. I thought it was an interesting question, you know. I just, you kinda pass it by as you're thinking about it. But after I thought about it a little bit, I think that's right. And I think I'm right on this. When did they start eating flesh?
After the flood?
Yeah. They didn't eat flesh before the flood. And, I think, during the millennium, it's gonna be a time that Satan's locked up. It's gonna kinda go back to Eden, the way it was in Eden. Where Satan, sin didn't abound. It can't go completely back because man's got sin in himself, even without Satan being here. But we'll go back to a time when it's as close to that as you can get. And we'll see a verse here talking about it in a minute. Okay, I'm covering a lot of stuff here. Anybody got a question at this point? This is the rejoicing city that dwelt carelessly and said in her heart, I am, and there is none beside me. How is she become a desolation, a place for beasts to lie down in? Every one that passes by her shall hiss and wag his head. So what city is this?
Last one was mentioned.
Yeah, I think, well, that whole area there, Babylon, Nineveh, Assyria, all that area along the Euphrates River was where false gods really started at. And he's saying here Nineveh is gonna be destroyed in the middle of it. I'm not sure of this, I think I'm right on it. I think false religion really started with Nimrod in this area. So, I think it's talking about that whole area up through there where false religion started north of Babylon, but it worked its way all the way down to Babylon. Which is what Nimrod was teaching, that he was a god and a high priest and all that kind of stuff. And that's continued through history from him, but it won't happen anymore according to this. Woe to her that is filthy and polluted through the oppressing city. She obeyed not the voice, she received not her correction. She trusted not in the Lord. She drew not near to her God. Her princes within her are roaring lions, her judges are evening wolves, and they gnaw not the bones till tomorrow.
I'm gonna finish filming this, and then I have to go. I'm fading
The
bad.
priests have polluted the sanctuary, they have done violence to the law. The just Lord is in the midst thereof, he will not do iniquity. Every morning doth he bring his judgment to light, he faileth not, but the unjust knoweth no shame. I have cut off the nations, their tires are desolate, I made their streets waste, that none passeth by, their cities are destroyed, so that there is no man, that there is none inhabitant. I said, surely thou wilt fear me, thou wilt receive instruction, so their dwelling should not be cut off. Howsoever I punished them, but they rose early and corrupted all their doings. When you look through history, God has warned people, but false religion has taken over all the way through it, and that's what these verses here talk about. They're talking about the false religion that started in that area. And we know that God wipes out all false religion when he comes back. In Armageddon, it's all destroyed. Notice this verse 8, it's a very important verse. It says, therefore wait upon me, wait ye upon me, saith the Lord, until the day that I rise up to pray. And then here's the important part. For my determination is together the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger. For all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. That really tells you what Armageddon is about. God says, wait on me. That's a very difficult thing to do. Waiting on the Lord is very difficult in our lives. But we can look here at what he's going to do and wait till it happens. And this is an Armageddon verse, when you think about it. Therefore wait ye upon me, saith the Lord, till the day that I rise up to the praise. Okay, he calls it a sacrifice, he calls it a supper, but it's all talking about the same event. And here it is, till I rise up to the praise. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms and pour upon them mine indignation. Okay, you'll see here, I guess it's interesting to me that God tell you what he's going to do. You know, we're all interested in what we're going to do tomorrow, aren't we? You got your plans. You got a plan for tomorrow. You got a plan for this afternoon. We all have a plan, and it's here in this verse. And I've not seen it exactly like this in any verse, where he says, "My determination is to gather all the nations." not just some of the nations, but I'm gonna gather them all. And with other reading, we realize that that is Armageddon. Now, a lot of people think that he gathers everybody and comes to stop the sacrifices, but he doesn't gather all the nations at that point. He gathers some of them come down there. But at Armageddon, he gathers all of them. And you can see from this verse that everybody that's against him dies at that day. That's, the more I think of that, it's a more terrible thing than you think. I was looking, I watched too much of the History Channel, too much of the Smithsonian deal. They were showing this week the bombing of Hiroshima, and I'm sure you've all seen that, where they dropped the first atom bomb. And in that episode, they show more of the city than they normally do. But that was a real vibrant city. I mean, it was a big city. It lays out in an area that looks like nearly 10 square miles, probably. And when that bomb hit, that thing is level. I mean, there's a few buildings standing here and there, you'll see one or something. But I mean, it just leveled the whole thing. And when you look at what God's fixing to do, he's gonna do the same thing. You can look at Hiroshima, and a lot of those cities that were bombed in World War II, a lot of them are just rubble. But think about it, he says not one stone is gonna be left on another. And that's hard to imagine. I think Hiroshima does a pretty good job of that when you look at it. But when God gets done with it, there's not anything gonna be left standing. And there's not anybody that's lost that's not gonna be killed. Therefore wait ye upon me, saith the Lord, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble a kingdom, pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger. For all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. That's an awesome verse to me. For then will I turn to the people of pure language, that they may all call upon the name of the Lord to serve him with one consent. I don't know what the word pure language means. Anybody got any idea?
Maybe all of us speak the same language instead of division of languages. Speak the language of God.
Hebrew?
Hebrew is not the language of God. Language of God was Aramaic.
With what?
Aramaic.
Aramaic is the language of God?
Aramaic, yes, sir.
Where do you figure that?
You won't find it in the Bible. You've got to go outside the Bible and look at archaeological texts. But the language primarily that Jesus spoke was Aramaic, and then he spoke Hebrew, and then he spoke Greek. But there are historical records of what Jesus spoke. There were several envoys from Pilate that recorded what Jesus looked like. They recorded what he was saying. You'll have to go archaeologically to find it. But Aramaic is one of the primary languages that was common prior to Hebrew. It's not my opinion. I'll have to find the sources.
No, I'm not doubting you. I'm just thinking through it. Aramaic could have very well been the language there when the nations were divided, is what you're saying. 'Cause that's the primary language left in that area. I don't know. That's interesting. It's a pure language anyway. They're going to speak it again if that's what it is or whatever it is. Maybe.
whenever I take a look at the cross-reference, it goes over to Isaiah and it says, speak the language of Canaan,
What?
speak the language of Canaan.
It would have been Aramaic, I guess. I don't know.
That's what we do that one.
Okay, 10 says, from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, my planets, even the daughter of my dispersed, shall bring mine offering. In that day shall thou not be ashamed for all thy doings wherein thou hast transgressed against me. For then will I take away out of the midst of thee them that rejoice in thy pride, and thou shalt no more be haughty because of my holy mountain. What day is it talking about here? Same day basically, but it's more talking about the millennial. Okay, in the millennial you could say, thou shalt not be ashamed for all thy doings wherein thou hast transgressed against me. He's basically saying he forgives Israel. He brings them to the front to do all the things he had promised. For then I will take away out of the midst of thee them that rejoice in thy pride, and thou shalt no more be haughty because of thy holy mountain. The Jews were always a little bit haughty, I guess you might say. They didn't like the other nations that won't exist in this time. In that day shalt thou not be ashamed of thy doings wherein thou hast transgressed against me. That's pretty good. I will also leave in the midst of thee an afflicted and poor people, and they shall trust in the name of the Lord. The remnant of Israel shall not do iniquity nor speak lies, neither shall a deceitful tongue be found in their mouth, for they shall feed and lie down, and none shall make them afraid. Okay, that's definitely a millennial verse. That after he cleans it up, here's what's going to happen. They will be afflicted and poor people. Poor people seem to be more interested in God than rich people. Would you say that? I would say that's true. I like the verse early on we read, where your silver and your gold won't get you out of this mess. Doesn't matter how much of it you got. For they shall feed and lie down, and none shall make them afraid. I think that ever since, I don't know when, they've been afraid all our lifetime, and our parents' lifetime, they had no country. They went from country to country, they were spread everywhere, and they've been afraid all that time. Sing, O daughter of Zion, shout, O Israel, be glad and rejoice with all the heart, O daughter of Jerusalem. The Lord hath taken away thy judgments, he hath cast out thine enemy. The King of Israel, even the Lord, is in the midst of thee, and thou shalt not see evil anymore. That's a pretty good promise right there, if you think about it. In that day it shall be said to Jerusalem, fear thou not, and to Zion, let not thine hands be slack. The Lord thy God is in the midst of thee, he is mighty, he will save, he will rejoice over thee with joy. He will rest in his love, he will joy over thee with singing. I will gather them that are sorrowful for a solemn assembly, who are of thee, to whom the reproach is, to whom the reproach of it was a burden. Behold, at that time I will undo all that afflict thee. I will save her that halteth, and gather her that was driven out, and I will get them praise and fame in every land where they have been put to shame. At that time I will bring you again, even in the time that I gathered you. For I will make you a name and praise among all people of the earth. When I turn back your captivity before your eyes, saith the Lord. We knew all that, but we learned it right here too. It's kind of a second showing you that God is going to raise him up. I like to think of it, this nation that we live in has probably been the greatest nation since World War II. Okay? We've had a preeminent place in the world. But that's going to go away. And God has promised that the Jews will have that for 1,000 years. All the things he promised them will not come to pass till after Armageddon. But that's a pretty good thing for them to know right here, that he will take care of them. They won't be afraid anymore, and they will serve him. Anybody got a question about any of that? I know I hammer on what's fixing to happen a lot. I guess because I think it's close. I think this nation is on its way down, and before this can happen, it will have to take a fall. I don't know how close we are to it. I just feel like in reading and studying about it, I think we're quite close. But it should be a comfort to us to know that, hey, the Lord's fixing to take care of things, and that he'll take care of us through it no matter what happens. I was saying in one of the classes the other day, you know, I probably should not listen to the news, because it makes me angry. It makes me create a list of those that need to be taken out. And that's bad thinking. The verse starts out, wait on the Lord, so our best bet is not to be trying to do anything, just wait on him and realize that he's fixed to take care of all of it, and we don't have to worry about it. And he's told us here what his intentions are and what he's gonna do. And it just takes patience for us to wait and let it happen, because I think it's happening before our very eyes. Anybody got a question over anything we covered? Comment?
Thank you. It was a good lesson.
Shows how short the book is. We went through that thing in the entire Sunday school.
We read the whole book.
Whole thing. Whole thing.
Yeah, it's a little book, but I'll tell you what amazes me about it is that God wrote it all down, 3,000 years ago. He put her down in writing and said, here's what my determination is to do. We'll come 3,000 years down the road, you gotta be getting closer to it happening. All right. Appreciate your attention.